Okay, so in my last video, or one of my last videos, I talked about books that I rated too high. This will be a video about books I rated too low. If you want to know more about why we're talking about this, go watch the last video. But very briefly, I have a complexity where I want to honor the author and the book and not give a book a low rating just because it wasn't my style. I have no problem giving out 1 or 2 stars, but only if I actually think the book deserves it. But if the book is good, it's just it wasn't my style of book. It feels unfair to be like, this book was objectively good, but it just wasn't for me. 1 star. It's just weird. It's a weird thing to say. So hopefully this list will be much shorter because I find that I rate books too high according to my enjoyment level more often than I do too low. So I have like 5 books on this list, which I feel good about. Let's start with the book that will vindicate a lot of you. The first book that I rated too low is Dune. This is another scenario where I just really struggled because I don't think that this book deserves a low rating, but I also have a hard time giving a book 4 or 5 stars if I just genuinely didn't enjoy reading it because, again, I also feel a responsibility to the people that are watching and reading my reviews and take my recommendations very seriously. But I also, it's one of those things where I really think that this book is like a 4-star book. Some of you guys would probably say it's even a 5. Maybe if I reread it, I would agree with you. But objectively, I think it was really well executed. I just didn't connect. It was mostly the writing style. It was an extremely distanced writing style where I felt like I was reading a story that was told by someone who had overheard it by somebody else. It was so distanced. The story itself was so good, and on paper, if you just summarize a story for me, I'd be like, man, that's so cool. But when I actually read it, I had so much trouble connecting to it. And so my enjoyment for this book was truly down to a 1 or a 2. But I think that the story was so smart and so well thought out and so cool. I just didn't like the execution at all. So it's one of those books that I ended up rating 3 stars, just right down the middle. And it's not because I think it's a middle of the road book. Like a 3-star book is an okay rating to me. It's like, you were fine. You did your job. Glad I read you. Probably won't talk about you again. It's not a negative review. It's just middle of the road because it's the middle of the rating system. But sometimes my 3 stars aren't actually a 3-star because I didn't like it well enough to give it the rating that I objectively think it deserves. So this is a book that I truly think deserves more than 3 stars, but it's hard to give it more than 3 stars when people look at my reviews and take them seriously as far as my enjoyment, and I didn't enjoy reading this book even though I wanted to enjoy it so bad. Nevernight! I feel good about my rating for Nevernight. 2 stars is exactly what I wanted to give it. But if we're talking about what the book truly deserves, nah, I don't think it deserves 2 stars. Jay Kristoff just chose a really unique way to write this book. He chose footnotes, which some people like, some people don't. He chose unbelievably flowery, metaphorical writing, which was painful for me to read. And in general, I just didn't really like the plot or the story of this book. Personally, assassin training schools don't really ever do it for me. But I know that that's a lot of people love that, so not to knock it, it's just a preference thing. I just really didn't like Kristoff's writing style in the slightest, and his story also didn't interest me at all, so I didn't like the book. And I feel like 2 stars is exactly what I wanted to give this book. But I don't think Kristoff necessarily is a bad writer or that his story was bad or poorly executed or really anything like that. I just didn't like it. So does it deserve 2 stars? Nah. Am I glad I gave it 2 stars? Yeah. Cosplayed is a self-published young adult romantic contemporary. This is a book that I also gave 3 stars, again, not because I think it's a middle of the road book, but because it was another one of those where it's one where I just really don't think I was the right audience. Young adult romantic contemporary, just not my style at all. I read the synopsis of this book. It's about a girl who goes to a cosplaying convention and tries to save the family business of her best friend, and it just sounded like a light, fun, great read. And it was light and fun. I just didn't love it because this just isn't a genre that I regularly connect with. So does it deserve 3 stars? Honestly, I don't think it does. It's probably more of a 4-star book. But my enjoyment was closer to a 2, only because it's not my type of book. So I gave it a 3, meet in the middle, trying to be fair to the people who check out my reviews and the author, but I still just, it's just a struggle. The Upworld is another small press. It's not, I don't think it's indie published. I think it's a small press published book, and it's another one of those things. It's I think it's a young adult, urban fantasy. Urban fantasy is not my thing. There were several things that I do think just weren't the best executed. This is definitely a book where the love word was being dropped within a couple of days of the 2 characters knowing each other, and I'm just not about that insta-love life. But also I didn't think the pacing was on point, but other than that, it was a good book. If you like urban fantasy, you would like this book. I just don't like urban fantasy. So, objectively, I would say it's more of a 4-star book. Subjectively, it was more of a 2. As far as my enjoyment, it was more of a 2. So, I just hit the middle, 3-star. Does it deserve a 3-star? No, not really. Did I give it a 3-star? Yeah. Last book on this list is another one that I feel pretty good about my ratings. I'll go ahead and get the book, or rather the series, and that's the To All the Boys I Loved Before. Always and Forever, I originally gave 3.5 stars. P.S. I Like You. Wait a second. To All the Boys I Loved Before, I originally gave 3.5 stars. P.S. I Like You, 3.5. Always and Forever, I originally gave 2. I recently updated my ratings for these books, and I marked not to put it in people's feeds, but it still went into so many people's feeds that follow me. So, sorry. Actually remarked a bunch of my old reads that I think I took it a little bit easy on. But anyway, this is a young adult romantic contemporary trilogy. Originally it was a duology, got expanded to a trilogy. I really believe that it should have just been a duology. There's not much to say about this. I really liked Lara Jean. A lot of people hate her. I really liked her, but I hated the love interest. I think that he treated her terribly. I think that he handled his ex terribly, and I don't like him at all. I know he gets better, but I already jumped ship long before he does that. The movie does portray him a lot better than the books do. So anyway, I recently updated my ratings, and I think they're all 2 stars now, which I definitely liked Always and Forever the worst. So I don't even know if that's the right way to rate these. But enjoyment was a 2-star for these 2 and a 1-star for this one. Really, these are well-written, well-executed, highly addictive books, super easy to just plow through, but I didn't enjoy reading them because they frustrated me so much. Lara Jean was a character that I wanted to love, but made all the decisions that I would never choose for her to make, and chose the guy that I did not want her to choose. Like, everything was so frustrating for me. I was so frustrated reading these books. I keep them because my annotations are really funny, and I just like to flip through every now and then and laugh at how much I hated this character. But I really should just get rid of them. I don't think they deserve to be 2-star books, but I also feel pretty okay with rating them that, because that's how I felt. Those are all the books that I feel that have too low of a rating, but I have a complexity and I don't know what to do about it. I'm very curious if you guys have rated anything too low. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on these books that I either ripped apart or apologize for rating low. I post videos every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.